What is going on, guys, and welcome back to part 2 of my Figma design tutorial. If you haven't already seen part 1, check that out. In that video we designed the hero of the website, and in this video we are going to be designing the rest of the website. It's going to be quite a long video. There's going to be a ton of useful information in there, so let's get right to it. Okay, so this is where we got to last time. This is our hero. Now, I'm going to make a few changes right off the bat to this. First of all, I want to go into our secondary button, and I actually want to change that semi-bold, just because I think that looks better. And you know what, whilst we're at it, we'll change this semi-bold as well. Click on the main frame here. I'm actually going to hold Command, and I'm going to drag this all the way down. So let's click on our dashboard, and using Command, I'm actually going to drag this up because we don't really want to show all of it. Also going to click on the dashboard, and I'm going to go to the background color, and I'm going to make it the same as the page background color, just because I think that sits a little nicer. So let's take our H1 here, we'll hold Alt and we'll drag this down. Now let's change the font size of this to 48. What I want for this section is something to kind of lead on from what we have up here and tell a bit of a story about this, because this is very visual. I want this to go this, then some kind of story about it, and then we'll jump straight in with the features. I'm thinking something like this. Now let's make this a little bit wider, something like that. And I've got this text here, and the color of that is 999, and the line height, we're actually going to go with 50 because that sits a bit better. If we hold Alt, we can see the distance that we've got from this. Now I want to move this down, so this has got a good bit of space. Let's say 180, and we'll make sure that it's sitting in the middle of the page. My idea with this when it comes to being an actual website is that when you scroll down, this text can probably scroll across, kind of filling in that darker color as you scroll. So some kind of interaction there, which I can't really show on Figma, but I think that'll look cool once it comes to the actual site. So let's get straight into the features. Let's hold Alt and let's duplicate this again. This time we're going to go left align. We're going to open our grid with Shift and G, and let's change the text to something like this. Schedule, track and plan with your team, and we're kind of running off of this same sort of dark and light theme that we've got going there. Go up here to our secondary button, and we're going to paste one of these in down here, and we're just going to position this over on the right. Now we're going to change the text of this. We'll delete the icon, and then we'll add something like integrations. We'll go grab this icon that we have in this button, and we'll paste that in there, and we're actually going to change the color of that to our solid blue that we have up here. And there's a little button, look at that. And you know what, we'll click on both of these, and we'll go Shift and A, and we'll make that an auto layout. Something like that is fine. If we double click up here, you can kind of make sure it's going to position itself and stay apart. Now we can kind of resize this, and it's going to do that. Because we positioned this 180 from the top, I want to grab this, and I want to make sure that this is positioned 180 from this section here. Let's open our grid again. Now let's make 3 frames here. So we want to have 3 boxes that run along here. Let's just set up a basic thing so we can see what we're doing first. So if we take 3 of these, we can hold Alt, duplicate them out, and we'll just get them positioned like so. This one should be in the center, and each one is taking up 4 columns in our grid. If we click into them, we'll make the border radius on all of them 24. So let's just take the stroke that's on our dashboard, which is this D4, 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 and we can go stroke, and we can just paste that in there. So if you click just at the edge of the screen here, kind of where it does that, it allows you to kind of highlight it, and then you can just Command and V. If not, just enter it manually. That's it there. We're going to change the background fill of these to just the background of the page. And let's just go copy, and we'll paste that into the other ones. We'll click on our text here, and we'll duplicate that down. Now let's make the height of this 24. We'll position this 32 from the box. If we grab our body text from up here, we can paste it down. And we'll left align this, and we'll sit this beside it. If we click on our text and this, then we'll make both of them an auto layout. So if you do this step for each of the boxes, and you can add in whatever text you want, you can see what I'm adding here. We'll actually make sure the gap between these is set to 24 instead of 32 because that's looking better. And then you can see that it's 32 pixels from the box. So next thing, let's go up here to our dashboard and we want to make some callouts with some of these features that we have here. So let's use this. So we can actually select this. Now I'm going to go frame, paste this down here. So let's position this 32 from the left and 32 from the top. You see, because we've got these sort of half pixel size, it's because we've got half pixels with a dimension. So let's just fix that. Change the width of that to 666 and then that changes the height over there. So there you go. Now you can see 32 pixels. Now remember, we made our dashboard a little bit smaller, so let's see if there's anything hidden away, and yeah, there is. So let's use this section here, the dashboard. Basically, we're just pulling out random little things, and if you're making your website for anything else, then you're not going to want to use the exact same stuff I'm using, but the principle is the same. Let's paste this in here, and for the purpose of the tutorial, just pretend that this and this kind of make sense together. We'll take our activity box up here and we'll paste that in this one. The height of that is 347. We're going to make this one the same height. Let's go 347 and then we'll position that 32 from the top and 32 from the right here. And you know what, I'm going to just delete that because that looks a little bit weird sitting on the edge. The next thing I'm going to try, which is completely optional, I'm going to make this rectangle and I'm going to drag this across. Now, if we go to the color, I'm going to make sure it's the background color and I'm going to go to gradient. I'm going to do this and this, so make sure that's at the bottom. We'll copy this and we'll paste that at the top, but at the top we'll change the opacity of that to 0. So we'll make this kind of fade in sort of gradient. And I'm going to run this just over the bottom of our feature boxes just to kind of fade them out. Then we can click on our text and we can actually bring that up. Lastly, for this section, I'm actually going to click on the white of all of these and I'm going to change that to like 70% just so it sits a little bit more softer on the background but stands out just enough. We'll select all of this and we'll make this a frame and we'll call that features 3. Let's make a big old frame here, the full size over 12 columns, and height I'm going to make this 760 because that's going to fill up most of the page but not all of it. And then we'll give this a corner radius of 24. Let's actually make it gray and let's paste in some stuff here. Let's actually reuse this from our hero and we'll go down here and we'll paste this in. Now let's make this left aligned and we'll make our title left aligned. We'll delete this top bit because we don't need that. We'll make our text left aligned and we'll make this text and this text both white as well. We'll delete our blue button. We'll drag this over to the bottom and we'll resize this down to 48 and 50 and just make sure it's positioned there. If we take this button up here, we can go copy and let's actually right click on this and we'll do paste to replace. We'll change the text of this to start a free trial. And then we'll change the text of this to something like this, just so it's obviously a little bit different. We're not saying the same message over and over, but this really is just kind of another call to action to start a free trial. Now, what we can use in here, I really like the idea that we have all these boxes and I want to use that. So let's actually select all of these. We just kind of want to show all the different stuff. It's just a very flattering visual call out way of kind of showing it. Because this is a staff management app, it's kind of boring by nature and none of it's that humanizing. So I think whenever you can find different reasons to use imagery of real people and kind of show the results of using something like this. So maybe that's a meeting, that's a team that's all coming together, maybe as a result of good workforce management. And we're going to paste in an image like this. Now I think this gives a more human element to the website and we're just going to reduce the opacity of it so that this can sit on top. If we hold Alt, we'll make sure that this is positioned 80 pixels from the 3 feature callout that we have here, and we'll rename this to something like feature big. We'll scroll back up to the top of our frame and we'll give ourselves a bit more space because we're starting to run out. Drag this down. I want to do something that calls out on the people that actually use the app. Now, I think what works really well up here is we have used by and we have all these company logos. Now I think that's really good social proof. I want to have a section on the website that has that. Now you could use something like testimonials, but I want to try something a little bit different for this, just for the fun of it. So let's choose a frame and we're going to make this 2 columns. Let's give that a background as our background color, and we'll give this a stroke of white, and we'll give that 4 pixels weight, and we'll give this 24 pixels border. So it should look something like that. Now if we go into effects, let's give this a drop shadow, and we'll bump this up just a little bit, and we'll reduce the opacity of that down by a lot. This is kind of matching the same style of what we have up here, and we want to make this kind of grid of these. So let's position them 16 pixels apart. Now if we select both of these, we could do something like this, and then maybe something like this. Now select all of these, duplicate them out. Now if you hold Shift and H, it'll flip your selection around, so you could do something like that. Select all these, make them a frame. So let's go up here, get some of these logos, and we'll paste them in here. And then we'll make sure that they're positioned in the center. You gotta make sure you click on the actual frame and then you paste it into the frame so you can center it inside it. Once you've pasted in your logos, it should look something like this. Now let's actually go up here and we'll grab this gradient that we used, and we're gonna paste this in here to kind of fade these off. Copy this one up, and then we'll do one so it fades them out at the top as well. Something like that is subtle, but that is perfect for what we want. So let's go up here and we'll copy this down. We will also copy one of these texts, and we'll also copy one of our secondary buttons. If you're a designer that loves componentizing a lot of your things and making styles out of them, you will probably cringe at my way of a workflow. Generally, the way that I work, you see me copying, pasting lots of different elements. I kind of get the bulk of a design down, and then at the end, I'll kind of tighten it up and maybe establish some components and styles and stuff. I don't like personally doing that too early, so that's why you see me copying and pasting a bunch of things, but it works. Click on this, we'll make this centered align. Also make this centered align, and we'll select all 3 of these things and we'll make them an auto layout that is positioned center, and we'll make the gap between them 32. I'm going to change the text to something like this, and the text here, I'm actually going to make this 24 pixels, and I'm going to change that to something like that. I'll change the button to Our Success Stories. And just to give it another human element, let's make a frame that's 80 pixels, fill of black, and we'll give this a stroke of 4, and white. Just kind of like our boxes that we had. Corner radius, we'll give it a corner radius of 8. Now let's go to Unsplash and let's get some images of people. Copy an image like this, and we'll paste that into our frame and resize it down. If we click on our frame, we'll duplicate that out 3 times. We'll select all of them and we'll make that an auto layout. We'll make sure that they're going horizontally, and the gap, let's change that to -20. So if we select all of them, we can go Effects, and let's tone that down just a little bit. Increase the size of it. And we'll change out each of these images so it's different people. We'll move this up a little bit, and we'll select this, and we'll make that a frame, and we'll call this Case Studies. Okay, so we're almost done. We just got a few more sections. Let's copy and paste this down, and we're gonna do a little FAQ section. So frequently, and let's change the color of this to our 999. We'll make sure this is left aligned. Open our grid. Now let's take one of these buttons. We'll change this to Contact Us. Let's choose some of this text here and we'll paste this down too. We'll have this text say something like this. If you have any unanswered questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. And you know, we could either sit this below or above. Normally it makes sense to kind of have it below it, but you know what? I'm going to set it above. Let's actually select both of these and we'll make that an auto layout. So using Shift and A, and then we'll make the gap of these 32. Let's actually change this to Get in Touch. We'll open our grid and we're going to do a frame, and we'll make it this wide here. So just any sort of size, as long as it just kind of fills that. Let's give it a fill of white. Let's give it a corner radius. Let's give it a stroke, just like we did before. Let's select the text that we did here. So this is probably like our H3, and we're going to paste that in here. Now, if we select our frame that we just did, we can do Shift and A to make that an auto layout. We'll make sure it sits on the left. Padding, we're going to do 32 on the sides, and we'll also do 32 on the top and bottom, but we'll give it a fixed width of this. Take our arrow icon. Now let's paste this in the box. And if we double click here, it's going to push the arrow over to the side. So if we move it, the arrow is always going to be pushed that way. Duplicate this down, and we'll select both of these, and we'll make these an auto layout, and we'll give these a gap of 8. And then if we click on one of them and we do Command D, we can just duplicate these down. Can I cancel any time? Does it work on mobile? Now we'll select our main auto layout. Now let's actually give this a fill of white, and we'll give this a padding of 8 and 8, and we're going to give this a border radius of 24. And you know what, if we select all of our ones that are inside here, let's give these a fill that is the same as our background. And the fill of this, let's actually change that to 70%, which is going to kind of match what we did with the white up here. And you know what, we'll go effect, and we'll give this a really subtle kind of background. You don't want to overdo it. In the beginning, you have a tendency to want to make things dark and stand out, but really subtle for things like this is generally what you want. Make sure this is positioned at the bottom. Then we can just copy all of these and make this a frame. That is our FAQ section. And we'll position this 180 from the section above it. Now it's time for our pricing card. So let's duplicate this down. Whenever your text is something like that, if you go up here to resize it, you can go like that, and it'll resize it to the size of your text. We'll position this 180 from the top, and we'll have it say something just like that, and we'll resize that. Click on both of these, make that an auto layout, and the gap 32. And we'll capitalize this as well. For our pricing plans, we want it to more or less be 3 columns. So let's make a column the width of the middle 4 here, and we'll give that a fill of white, and we'll give that a corner radius of 24. We'll pull in one of these for the actual price itself. So let's give our price $49.99, and we'll have this say USD, and then next line maybe billed monthly. And we'll position this just to the left here. Let's change the color of this to our text like that. We select that and that, we can make them an auto layout, and let's make the gap between them 32. And we'll call this Pro. So this is going to be our Pro plan. And then let's change the size of this to 24. What we also want to do, let's duplicate this out. We'll do a little pill that says most popular. We'll change the size of that to 20. Make this an auto layout. Now let's give this a fill of our background color, and then why not make this our blue, and then let's just go corner radius, and let's just crank this all the way up. We'll give it padding of 16. We'll give it a padding top and bottom of 12. If we select this and this, then we can give that an auto layout. Then if we click on our main box here, we can make this an auto layout, and the padding we're actually going to set to 0. And we're going to set 0 to this as well, and this will make sense. Now if we go over to the sidebar here and we select both of these, let's make these an auto layout, and we want to add the padding to these of 48 and 48. Then we can go over to the parent one, and we can just expand this down for now. We'll grab one of our buttons here, and we will paste that in to our auto layout up here. And we'll make sure that this is set to fill container. We'll change the gap of this to 24. Let's give it our stroke color, but then actually let's just only add that to the bottom, so it's going to act as a sort of divider. We'll take our text from here and we'll add this in down here. Now we want these to be the perks, so let's just say perks for now. And then we're going to use an icon. Now I like using Cool Icons. It's a free Figma file that you can just grab these from, so I'm going to use this check, and we'll paste this in here just beside perks, and we'll actually make these an auto layout together, and we'll make sure that they sit side by side. And then we'll give our blue color to our icon, and we'll make sure that they're sitting on the left. We'll position them in the center. We'll give this a padding of 16 pixels at the top and bottom. And then we're also going to add the same stroke that we did here, but only to the bottom of this. And now we have that, we can just duplicate that down a few times, and then we can resize these so they're going to sit in the middle just like that. We'll change the perk so it actually makes sense. We're going to use this as a template for the other two, but we're going to change them slightly. So let's just copy and paste both of these out on either side. We'll make the background for both of these. We'll make that the background of this. So after a little bit of playing around, we'll have something like this. Now that's going to do nicely. Now I've actually added this little soft glow behind here. Now this is just an ellipse that I've added a layer blur to, and it helps it kind of pop. And for the very last step of the website, I've added in this footer. Now if you've managed to follow along so far, I want you to try make your own version of a footer. You can copy mine, but I'm not going to go through me making it step by step, but it's very simple. I've just got some social icons, some links here, London office, Chicago office, and a big logo at the bottom. So that is the finished website, guys. Here it is. As you can see, I've added in a few little extra things here and there, so feel free to play around with it and really make it your own. In the next and final part of this series, we are going to be tidying it up in Figma, and we're going to make some things auto layout. We're going to make things a bit more organized and structured, componentize a few things, and then we're going to take it into Framer to turn it into an actual functioning website. That's all in part 3, so if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe. Let me know in the comments if you guys followed along with this, and I'd love to see what you guys made of this. So if you worked on this and you want to show me your design, then send me a DM on X and I'll check it out, and I'll give feedback if you want, or I'll just check it out. Thanks for watching, guys, and make sure you check back for part 3, which will happen at some point in the future. Alright, bye.